It's June 8th, 1996, and this is the 121st commencement from the University of Washington in Seattle. I'm Jack Armstrong, and with me is my colleague Pam Stewart, and on behalf of UWTV, we welcome you to Commencement 1996. As we await the start of the processional, there's a real feeling of anticipation and excitement here in the pavilion as the crowd gathers and everybody is looking for the graduates to be. Pam, I just sense that this is really going to be an exciting moment here and when they begin to come down the aisle.
Oh, you bet it is, Jack. With all the balloons and the flowers, the picture taking, the last minute straightening of caps and gowns, it's truly an expectant atmosphere, I think you could say. It's bright and sunny outside today, and I think that mood has definitely spilled over into this hall. Why don't we take this opportunity then to describe what viewers will see today? This is one of two ceremonies being held on campus. You are about to see the morning event, also called the Purple Ceremony. This ceremony is for those baccalaureate and graduate degree candidates receiving degrees from the Arts, Humanities, and Social Science departments of the College of Arts and Sciences. The Gold Ceremony, which takes place this afternoon, is for graduates of all other schools and colleges and for those baccalaureate and graduate degree candidates from the science departments of the College of Arts and Sciences.
And UWTV Cable Channel 27 is providing full live coverage of these events. Both ceremonies today, the Purple and the Gold, will be rebroadcast on UWTV June 10th through the 14th, starting at 12 noon. And again on June 15th and 16th, beginning at 1 p.m. You should check your UWTV channel for regular announcements of this schedule. Now, these programs will also be seen in Tacoma and throughout Pierce County on Tacoma Municipal TV, Channel 12, and on KRCC, Channel 28. The Purple Ceremony airs on June 14th and the Gold on June 21st, both starting at 10 a.m.
And for the first time, UWTV's coverage of these events will be available to folks viewing from east of the mountains. For those of you living in and around Wenatchee, TCI Cable Channel 12 will retelevise both ceremonies on June 9th, beginning at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And for our friends in Spokane, Cox Cable will repeat these ceremonies several times on Channel 17. So be sure to check with Channel 12 in Wenatchee, Channel 17 in Spokane, and Channels 12 and 28 in Tacoma for their upcoming programming schedules.
And as we mentioned earlier, we want to remind you that you're more than welcome to record these programs on your VCR to share and with others and to save for posterity, of course. We have multiple cameras set up to provide maximum coverage of today's events, and you're seeing some of our shots around the auditorium of the staging for the event and of the crowd as everybody is settling into their seats with an expectant anticipation of what's going to happen here. We're working very hard to give those of you who can't attend the feeling that you're actually here. Now, for those of you who aren't recording the program, here's good news. Copies of this program for both the purple and gold ceremonies can be purchased from the University Bookstore. For information, call the University Bookstore at 1-800-335-READ. That number again is 1-800-335-READ. We'll repeat this information at the end of today's coverage.
And let me say a word, too, about the channel that you're watching, UWTV. UWTV is a television programming source and internet site developed as a multimedia resource for learning by the University of Washington. The majority of programs you will see on UWTV are original and non-commercial productions of this channel. UWTV is available on cable channel 27 in the greater Seattle and Puget Sound region, and by the end of this year, its resources will also be cablecast to viewers in the Wenatchee area and in Spokane.
And that's going to be an exciting time.
I think so.
Expansion of the coverage.
We're looking forward to it.
Throughout the state. Well, let's take a few moments now, and as we wait the graduates, and I'm sure they're paused just outside the arches ready to come in. But we've got a colorful crowd in here today. Moms, dads, and sisters, brothers, relatives, friends.
Yeah, we do.
And they're just buzzing.
You and I were here pretty early this morning, and people were already lining up outside waiting to get the best seats in the house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Those at the head of the line did, too.
Yeah, they sure did. There aren't many left. We're watching the last of the audience come in and try to seek out a good perch.
Well, we aren't far away from the entrance of the stars of the day, the graduates. So
that's right.
Let's take just a few moments here. We'll look at the crowd and we'll share some of their excitement with them. Anticipation grows high, as it should, because the graduating parties are beginning to enter Heck Edmondson Pavilion right now. We're watching the 121st UW commencement. We're delighted to be bringing it to you. And as we mentioned, this is one of two ceremonies being held today. And you may be wondering, well, why two? Well, the University of Washington campus in Seattle graduates almost 9,000 students per year. And there just is not enough room for all who wish to participate in graduation, plus their family and friends, here in Heck Edmondson Pavilion. And an estimated 1,000 people are viewing next door in the Pavilion Edition on closed-circuit TV. So we're really bursting to the rafters with people in a celebratory mood here today.
But you know, this condition, it didn't always exist. In fact, back in the 1960s, the percentage of graduating students actually wanting to take part in these formal ceremonies reached an all-time low, only about 18%. But that rate has climbed steadily over the years, and finally in 1986, the university had to go to 2 ceremonies. This year, we are experiencing an all-time high participation rate of 52%. Contrast that to what I just said, 18% in the 60s. And Jack, if my calculations are correct, that's a grand total for the day, both ceremonies, graduates, family, and friends, of over 20,000 people. Wow. And I've heard that if it goes much higher, we may have to go to 3 ceremonies. I don't know. That's an awful lot of shows for us to do.
Well, Pam, whatever it takes, morning to night, we'll be here. Yes, well, speaking of shows, let me briefly outline what we'll be seeing and hearing here today. Right now, we're watching the processional. When the formal program begins, University Marshal and Professor of Philosophy Ron Moore will convene the proceedings. Next, University President Richard McCormick will introduce the regents, followed by special awards presentations and recognition of the student body president. This year, we're honored to have U.S. Senator Bill Bradley here to present the commencement address. It promises to be an excellent program. But the culmination of it all will no doubt be the conferring of the undergraduate and graduate degrees. At that time, each graduating student will be called forward to receive his or her diploma. As the conferring of degrees is completed, the University Marshal will offer some final words, after which we'll all be treated to a traditional, and you can bet it's going to be emotional, rendering of the alma mater. We'll wrap up our coverage of today's ceremonies with the recessional, as each of our gleeful and relieved graduates, clutching degree in hand, heads out of the pavilion and into an afternoon and evening of celebration with family and friends.
And speaking of celebrations, for some students, this will be their second celebration of the week. A number of academic departments and a few of the schools and colleges held separate ceremonies prior to this. And their graduates can also participate in the larger ceremony here today as well. I don't know about you, Jack, but I'm all for extending celebrations as long as you can.
Well, it sure beats what follows right away, because they're going to be looking for jobs. We should mention that right now you're hearing in the background the music of the processional medley. It's a wonderful piece performed for us today by students from the School of Music's Wind Ensemble under the direction of Professor Timothy Salzman.
You know, Jack, when we were talking earlier about the large number of graduates wanting to take part in this event and how this has resulted in the need for 2 ceremonies, I was thinking about something we learned doing this event last year, and that's about the first ever graduating class of the University of Washington. I don't think space for graduation was a problem then.
Pam, I'd say that's an understatement. You know, of course, that the university was founded on November 4th, 1861, and it graduated its first student some 15 years later.
Of course I knew that.
Yeah, I knew you knew that. But what everyone may not know is that the first graduating class of 1876 consisted of exactly 1 student, and her name was Clara McCarty. She later cemented her place in the history books by becoming the first woman to be elected superintendent of schools in Pierce County. And it's in honor of her status as the UW's first alumna that the McCarty Hall dormitory is named after her.
Actually, I do know a little something of Clara McCarty and her time here at the U. For example, can you believe that in Clara's day, tuition was the princely sum of $30 whole a year? I don't know, even accounting for more than a century's worth of inflation, I've got to think that was a pretty good deal.
I'd say so.
Of course, the university's resources were somewhat more limited in those days, since they had to be shipped from back east by way of Tierra del Fuego.
Wait a minute.
You remember where
Shipped
that
from
is.
where?
Oh, come on, Jack. You remember your geography, don't
No,
you?
I'm going back to my books right now.
Textbooks were in short supply, and not to mention what we consider staples like pen and ink.
Well, you know, the university has certainly grown a bit since Clara's day. That's obvious, of course. Today, the UW comprises 16 colleges and schools located on the 700-acre main campus in Seattle and on campuses in Tacoma and Bothell. About 50,000 people converge daily on the main campus to study and work, and about half of those are undergraduates.
And many of you may not be familiar with the university's two newest campuses that Jack just mentioned, UW Tacoma and UW Bothell. So let's take this opportunity to give you a bit of background on them. The University of Washington campus in Tacoma is in its 6th year of operation and has graduated nearly 900 students, over 200 of them just this past Wednesday night, in fact. The Tacoma campus offers upper division and master's level degree programs in business, education, nursing, and liberal studies. New programs being considered are degrees in engineering and society and justice, and a master's degree in social work. In 1997, just next year, the UW Tacoma will move into its permanent facility, which is in the heart of the newly refurbished Academic and Cultural Center in downtown Tacoma. And for those of you familiar with Tacoma, that area consists of the Union Station, the brand new Washington State Historical Society Museum, and the proposed International Museum of Modern Glass. So, if you are interested in obtaining further information about the University of Washington Tacoma, you can call 1-800-736-7750. That number is being displayed for you now. Again, it's 1-800-736-7750.
And tomorrow, the University of Washington Bothell will graduate more than 200 students to add to its growing alumni population. That's now over 700. Also, it's in its 6th year. UWB offers upper division undergraduate programs leading to the bachelor's degree in nursing, liberal studies, and business administration, as well as a master's of education. In addition, a teacher's certification program for K-8 teachers begins this month in fact. And a bachelor's degree in computing and software systems will be offered this coming fall. Now, for more information about the programs at the University of Washington Bothell, call 1-800-736-6650. The number again, 1-800-736-6650.
And our congratulations to the 1996 graduates of those two campuses. We also talked earlier about, just a minute ago, in fact, about the first UW graduate in 1876, Clara McCarty. Jack, did you know that she didn't actually attend the university at its current site?
Well, I did have a sense of that.
The University of Washington actually started in the heart of downtown Seattle on the site of what is now the Four Seasons Olympic Hotel. In fact, the university didn't move to its current site on Lake Washington until 1895, and that's when the first campus building, Denny Hall, was opened.
Well, and here's a little bit more physical development history for you. The formal plan for the development of the campus was conceived by the famous landscape planners of the day, the Olmsted brothers, and they did it for the 1909 Alaska-Yukon Pacific Exposition. These Olmsted brothers were the sons of Frederick Law Olmsted, the distinguished designer of Central Park in New York City. His sons also designed the Washington Park Arboretum and played a major role in the development of the park system for the entire city of Seattle. And the integrity for the design of the UW campus today continues. For those of you who have had the opportunity to visit the campus, you'll recognize the vista leading from Red Square with a view towards Mount Rainier. Well, that was the signature element of the Olmsted plan, and it has been preserved ever since.
You're right, and from that first building in 1895, the campus has now grown to over 200 buildings, comprising about 14 million gross square feet, with its own central heating and cooling system, a 7-mile system of underground utility tunnels, and just a whole lot of other physical attributes that make it akin pretty much to a small city. With 15,000 faculty and staff, plus an enrollment of around 34,000 students. Well, I guess you could say the university's presence is definitely felt.
Certainly is. And when we were digging around for some interesting information, we found out some things about this grand old building, Heck Edmondson Pavilion, that we're in right now. Now, Pam, here's a trivia question for you. What year was the pavilion built? And before you answer, I can tell you it was even before my time.
Okay, let me guess. 1927.
How quick you were. That's a pretty good shot, Pam. I think you had that one nailed.
Oh, maybe I did.
And it was named after Clarence S. Heck Edmondson, basketball coach at the UW from 1921 through 1947. So this really is a sports pavilion, but once a year it's taken over and transformed for the rite of passage that we're viewing today.
26 years as a basketball coach here. Wow, that's got to be the longest tenure of any coach at this university, wouldn't you say?
I think so.
Well, we'll have to check on that one. But getting back to what you just said, you're absolutely right. It really takes a lot of coordination to put together an event like this. I know that they spend months and months of planning, and all this planning is overseen by the university's Office of Public Exercises, and that office is led by Bev Gessel, who, by the way, Jack, is now in her 22nd year of planning and organizing this event. Not as long a tenure as the basketball coach.
But still pretty impressive. Well, yes, even something as basic as getting all the graduates onto the pavilion floor, and that's what you're watching right now as they come in, and the festivity we were talking about earlier, and that air of anticipation in the air is reflected in balloons and coverings on the hats and jostling and good-natured fun that they're all having. But getting them in here in an orderly fashion, that is, requires extensive pre-planning. Since rehearsing an entrance on the scale of the one we're seeing isn't really practical, most of the details are worked out ahead of time. And in fact, the volunteer marshals don't even meet the graduates until just before the ceremony. But they're doing a pretty good job. I don't see anybody getting lost out there.
So far, it doesn't look like too many folks are out of line. And for those of you who are used to watching sports events in this pavilion, it's pretty impressive how the arena has been transformed. It takes almost a month to get the place ready for this event. The basketball court has to be removed, the floor underneath clean, the stage, the flags, the banners installed, put down carpet, and a host of other details, including, we should mention, disability access at the ground level and a sign language interpreter for the hearing impaired. We also have, the whole stage is filled with live plants that are brought in for the occasion.
Very attractive. Adds to all of the good feeling and the color in here today. Well, what a great shot of the graduates as they're beginning to get seated.
Yeah.
You get an idea of the mass of everybody who's coming in.
I always enjoy how folks modified their costumes a little bit, just to and the balloons coming in so people will know where their sons and daughters are. And
everybody has a sense of personal identification, even though they're all in a big crowd down there.
Yeah.
We've got the auditorium now approximately half full. Let's just hopscotch around with our cameras and find some of the interesting shots that are taking place down here, and let you enjoy the color and the pageantry. And for the moment, we will just pause and look at commencement.
reminder that you're watching the 121st commencement of the University of Washington. This is a live telecast of the first of two ceremonies being held today. This is the purple ceremony, and it will be followed by the gold this afternoon. Both will be re-aired here on UWTV throughout the week, and you can also purchase videotapes as we are showing on the screen at 1-800-335-READ from the University Bookstore. Jack, you know, the richness of the gowns and the hoods worn by the graduates certainly adds to the feeling of pomp and circumstance.
Oh, I agree with you, Pam. The colors and the designs are really eye-catching, and they run the gamut from the subdued blacks to some very bright reds and real eye appeal down there. There's a lot of history surrounding these costumes. The story of the cap and gowns dates all the way back to the Middle Ages, when most scholars were members of religious orders. At that time, caps and long hooded gowns were worn for warmth in the cold, drafty 12th century buildings.
Oh, I think we could have used those this past spring with the weather we've had.
I think we had several places where we could use them. One source even says that the hoods were worn by begging friars and shaped like that sort of bag-like form you see on the back to hold alms and goods. Well, they continue to be worn at commencement ceremonies like this one today as the traditional symbols of academic life.
And here at the UW, the bachelor's and master's gowns are black. The matching Oxford mortarboard or cap has a long tassel fastened to the top, which is worn on the left side of the cap. The color of the tassel depends on which school or college is conferring the degree, and there are nearly 20 different colors. For example, students being awarded a Bachelor of Arts degree wear a white tassel, Bachelor of Science wear gold and yellow, Business Administration sapphire blue, Engineering orange, and there are many, many other colors which you'll be seeing today.
Well, and the doctoral candidates wear the purple gown and the official UW tab. In addition, all advanced degree candidates wear the academic hood, signifying their exceptional scholarly achievement. The colors of the master's hoods are, like the tassels, distinctive of the candidate's earned degree. The doctoral hood of bright satin purple and gold reflects the colors of the University of Washington. And the doctoral hoods are longer and have a wider trim than those of the master's.
Now, you may have noticed as we've been talking, the stage at the front of the hall, the dais, is still empty. This is where the President's Party and the Dean's Party will be seated, a number of whom will be introduced by the President during the formal proceedings. There's a shot of that right now. Among those being honored today are this year's recipients of the Outstanding Public Service Award, the Distinguished Teaching Awards, Excellence in Teaching Awards, Alumnus Summa Laude Dignatus, and the President's Medal. And Jack, I'm not giving any of these names away.
Well, no, but Pam, I'm really impressed with your Latin pronunciation.
Oh, thank you, Jack.
You know, I barely got through in my Latin classes, as I remember, it was all Gaul is divided into three parts. Remember that?
Oh, you mean Gallia est omnis divisa in partes tres?
I should have known. I think you had that one wired. Anyway, also seated on the dais will be the faculty members serving as commencement marshals. Now, these are the folks you've been watching and seeing directing the traffic as the graduates come in on the main floor. These marshals represent a different department of each of the university. And in this crowd, everyone's a VIP, parents, relatives, and friends. And what a crowd it is. As we said earlier, about 10,000 people altogether at each of the two ceremonies.
And also, as we mentioned earlier, this year's commencement speaker is United States Senator Bill Bradley, senior senator from the state of New Jersey. Senator Bradley has been serving in the U.S. Senate since 1978, and last summer he generated an enormous amount of interest when he announced that he would not be seeking re-election this year. You know, I've been looking at his biographical information a bit, and one might consider him a contemporary version of a Renaissance man, don't you think?
Well, I tend to agree with you, Pam. Senator Bradley is a 1965 graduate of Princeton with honors in American history. And he was awarded a Rhodes Scholarship to Oxford, where he earned a graduate degree after studying politics, philosophy, and economics. Following that, he went on to play professional basketball for 10 years with the New York Knicks. But we certainly remember him from that activity. The senator is also the author of 3 books, the first of which recounts his years as a professional basketball player. Now, his latest book time present, time past, explains his recent decision not to seek re-election. He's not leaving public service, he's just changing the direction. You could describe him as a long-term thinker in what often seems to be a short-term culture. He should have some very interesting thoughts to share with us
And
today.
I'm really looking forward to his remarks.
We're watching Commencement 1996 from the University of Washington. We're drawing very close to the time when the formal program will begin. We're awaiting the arrival of the President's party right now. But as you can see, the graduates are now in the pavilion, and the formal ceremony is continuing. And Pam, I think you have a description of what we're going to see here.
Yeah, Jack, we're watching right now as this year's University Marshal, who is a professor of philosophy, Ron Moore, enters the arena along with some of the other dignitaries. And what, you may ask, is the Marshal carrying?
Okay, Pam, I'll play along with you on this. What is the Marshal carrying?
Well, that is the University Mace. Back in 1961, it was presented to the university in honor of its centennial by the Alumni Association. Since that time, it's become a regular fixture in official university ceremonies, and the rest of the time it is on display in the Regents' Room in Gerberding Hall.
Well, if I know my medieval history, and I think I do, the mace was not only a menacing weapon, but it was a symbol of status and authority as well.
That's right, and so it follows that in symbolic terms, at least, an appearance here by the University Mace means that the day's proceedings have been duly and officially sanctioned by the powers that be.
Well, that's a relief.
And this particular mace is a most decorative one indeed. Here's a close-up shot of it. The shaft is made of dark rosewood decorated in gold. The entire mace weighs 5 pounds and is about 3 feet long. As we get closer to the top, you can see the triangular headpiece of gold-plated sterling silver. And this is capped by a miniature reproduction of a prominent feature on campus, Drumheller Fountain. Now we're seeing a close-up view of the triangular headpiece, on each side of which is an engraving. This one shows the seal of the University of Washington. This side is a representation of the original university building on the old territorial campus. And this last depicts Denny Hall, the oldest building on campus.
Well, it's really a beautiful piece. So the University Mace represents not only tradition and authority, but true craftsmanship as well.
And the mace is just part of the pomp and circumstance that we are witnessing right now. The pavilion is just about full. The audience is There's a low hum as everyone kind of awaits the start of the program. The President's Party and the Dean's Party are now filing down the center aisle on their way to the dais. So we're close.
There's really an exciting murmur that's running through all of the auditorium right now. And I agree with you, Pam, the traditions inherent in a ceremony like this do create a solemn and respectful tone. But let's reiterate it one more time. Make no mistake about it. There's a jubilant atmosphere here, too. Everyone's spirits are understandably high.
That's for sure, and I also sense a bit of relief, maybe quite a bit, on the part of the graduates, some of whom are probably just a little amazed that this long-anticipated day has finally arrived. So why don't we sit back and watch and enjoy with them the program of this 121st commencement from the University of Washington.
You may be seated. The commencement exercises of the University of Washington will be opened with the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner by Glenn Gurr, a voice student in the School of Music. The audience will please rise. Please be seated. It is my pleasure to present President Richard L. McCormick, who is presiding today over his first University of Washington commencement ceremonies.
Welcome to the 121st commencement ceremony of the University of Washington. Commencement ceremonies are an expression of academic traditions going back hundreds of years, and they symbolize some of the most fundamental values of our civilization, most particularly the pursuit of truth, the preservation of freedom, and the cultivation of a climate of civility. These ceremonies are also festive, celebrating the commencement of new activities and challenges in the lives of the graduates, as well as the successful conclusion of one phase of their formal education. The diversity of this university is nearly as striking as its distinction, and the graduates today are completing academic courses of study which reflect the complexity of this society and the intellectual concerns of our faculty and students. I am honored, therefore, to be the first to congratulate formally the degree and award recipients and to welcome all of you to these ceremonies. These graduates should be very proud of themselves, and I know that all the rest of us are very proud of them. It is appropriate, therefore, that we all stand up, everyone including the graduates, and applaud the class of 1996. And now I think the graduates should applaud their family and friends who have supported them through the years. Please be seated. Some statistics about our university may be of interest to you. Over the past academic year, more than 6,000 students have earned the bachelor's degree, and more than 8,700 new degrees overall have been awarded. About 54% of the bachelor's and 50% of the master's degrees were earned by women. Half of the new lawyers are women, as are 37% of the new physicians and 33% of the new dentists. 37% of the PhDs have been earned by women. Over 4,500 of this year's graduates are participating in the two ceremonies today, and many other graduates have participated in separate ceremonies in various schools and colleges. Some are doing both. Each year, the number of students participating in these ceremonies has increased, and as far as we can tell, the number this year is the largest in the history of the university. We are very pleased to have you and your families and friends here today. We now hold two ceremonies. This morning, we honor graduates from the College of Arts and Sciences, Arts, Humanities, and Social Science departments. This afternoon, graduates of the science departments in the College of Arts and Sciences and the university's other schools and colleges will march in another ceremony. The splendid music you have been listening to during the processional, and which you will be hearing more of as the program goes on, is being provided for us this morning by students from the School of Music's Wind Ensemble under the direction of Professor Timothy Salzman. As you can tell, they are gifted musicians, and we greatly appreciate their participation here today. Ultimate responsibility for the University of Washington lies with the members of the Board of Regents, 9 citizens of the state who were appointed by the governor and confirmed by the state Senate. These dedicated men and women serve without pay and devote many, many hours each year to the welfare of our university. 7 of our regents are with us this morning, and I would like to introduce them at this time. Scott D. Oakey, President. Daniel J. Evans, Vice President. Mari J. Clack. Judge Jerome Ferris. H. John Runstadt. Samuel N. Strom. Shelley Yap. Please recognize our Board of Regents. In addition to the regents, we have seated on the platform this morning the chief academic and administrative officers of the university, including the provost, whom you will meet in a moment, the vice presidents, the dean, and associate deans of the College of Arts and Sciences, chairs of the departments in the college, the leadership of the faculty senate, the elected student leadership on campus, the president-elect of the Alumni Association, and faculty members, professors emeriti, and other representatives from the various schools and colleges and departments of the University of Washington. I would also like to acknowledge the more than 150 members of the faculty here today serving as commencement marshals. Their names are listed on page 9 of the commencement program. The chief academic and chief budget officer of the university is acting Provost David Thorud. Provost Thorud will present this year's Teaching and Public Service Awards.
In order to strengthen the university's dedication to teaching excellence, the university each year presents Distinguished Teaching Awards to faculty and Excellence in Teaching Awards to graduate teaching assistants. Many elements of the university community participate in the process of identifying and selecting those who rank foremost among their peers in teaching excellence. 5 University of Washington professors and 2 graduate students with teaching responsibilities have been selected to receive awards this year. I will ask them to rise and remain standing until all are introduced. The recipients of the Distinguished Teaching Awards are Robert Steiner, Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology; George Bridges, Associate Professor of Sociology; James Kloss, Associate Professor of Classics; Victoria Lawson, Associate Professor of Geography; and Edwina Uhara, Assistant Professor of Social Work. The recipients of the Excellence in Teaching Awards are Anshan Oleria, Teaching Assistant in Linguistics and Romance Languages. He couldn't be here with us this morning. Linda Stevens is the other winner, and she's a teaching assistant in sociology. Selected by a committee of faculty, students, and alumni, the honorees were cited for superior mastery of their disciplines, their ability to transmit knowledge, and their concern for students. We are proud of our teaching faculty, and the honor these recipients received today is especially precious to a member of the academic community. Please join me in applauding these exceptional teachers. The university also presents an award in recognition of outstanding public service on the part of a university faculty or staff member. This year's recipient is Diana Wilkie, Associate Professor of Nursing. Would Professor Wilkie please stand? Professor Wilkie is a specialist in the assessment and management of pain. Her research has convinced her that pain, especially cancer pain, is undertreated, and that with proper management, cancer patients can be essentially pain-free. Spreading this message has become Professor Wilkie's personal crusade. Since coming to the University of Washington, Professor Wilkie has presented more than 60 continuing education lectures or workshops, many in medically underserved and remote corners of the state. She teaches patients how to communicate pain and caregivers how to treat it. When offered an honorarium for these talks, she typically asks that the funds be used instead to allow more nursing students to attend. Wherever she speaks or consults, Professor Wilkie volunteers her phone number for personal consultation. Nurses around the state regularly seek her counsel, freely and generously given, about their most severely afflicted patients. She has written a handbook on pain management and spearheaded the creation of a self-contained pain management workshop that can be used by nurses anywhere in Washington. For remarkable efforts to put her knowledge at the service of the community, to alleviate suffering, and to carry her battle against pain into the widest possible public arena, the University of Washington commends her.
Mr. President, Dean John B. Simpson will present the College of Arts and Sciences medals.
Among the students who are graduating with honors, the College of Arts and Sciences would like to recognize the outstanding graduate in each of the major divisions of the college. These honorees were selected by a faculty committee within the college that is separate from the committee that chooses the president's medalists. Among the criteria for selection are high scholarship and the challenging and advanced nature of the coursework undertaken. This year, the outstanding graduating senior in the arts is Molly Marie Hayes. In the humanities, it is Jeffrey Allen Alberts. In the social sciences, it is Payleen Yu, and in the sciences, it is Corin Ross Anderson. I would like to ask Corin and Payleen to please come forward and receive their medals. Thank you and congratulations.
Since 1932, the University of Washington has presented a medal to the graduating senior who has achieved the most distinguished academic record at the university. Will Matthew James Griffey please come forward? Matthew started in school in Salt Lake City and then, thanks to Boeing, moved to Seattle with his family in 1981. 10 years later, he graduated from Highline High School as valedictorian, senior class president, letterman in 2 sports, and National Merit Scholar. When it came time to go to college, he had offers of admission from both Yale and the UW, and now 5 years later, he says he is sure he made the right choice. He graduates today summa cum laude and Phi Beta Kappa with a Bachelor of Science degree in cell and molecular biology. He won the Dixie Lee Ray Biology Prize for highest academic achievement in 1995 and has been on the dean's list throughout his college career. Matthew is, incidentally, one of 3 Griffey brothers currently at the university. His older brother Patrick will receive an MBA at this afternoon's ceremonies, and his younger brother Sean is a freshman. While the grade point average is not the sole determinant of this award, the committee that selects the recipient looks at other things as well, such as the number of honors and upper division courses taken and other factors. The grade point average is important. Matthew is graduating with a 3.95 average. He achieved this record while deliberately balancing his science courses with classes in the humanities, including upper-level courses in German and classics. About his experience as a first grader in an open classroom in Salt Lake City, Matthew writes, "I was taught to address my teachers by their first names. I never had to raise my hand to ask a question, and I spent many happy hours reading in the loft and singing songs about saving whales. I also learned that I had a personal responsibility for my education, and I believe that this lesson has influenced my style of learning all my life. It is clear from Matthew's accomplishments at our university how much he benefited from that first grade experience. This summer, Matthew will continue at the UW as a post-baccalaureate student in philosophy. He plans eventually to do graduate work in medical genetics and to become a professional genetics counselor. It is my pleasure to present to you, Matthew, this medal in recognition of your outstanding achievements at the university. At this time, I would also like to recognize those students who were candidates for the President's Medal by virtue of academic performance in the top 0.5% of all graduating seniors in their respective colleges. These students, along with the President's Medalist, are today graduating with the university's highest baccalaureate honor, summa cum laude. Their names are listed on pages 11 and 12 of the commencement program. Also listed are the names of students who are being graduated magna cum laude and cum laude. Since 1938, the university and the Alumni Association have presented an award to a former University of Washington student whose work has attained national or international prominence. The Alumnus Summa Laude Dignatus Award, which means alumnus worthy of the highest praise, is the highest honor bestowed by the university. The recipient is selected by a committee of university faculty and alumni. It gives me great pleasure today to add to the long and distinguished list of individuals who have received this award the name of Martin Rod Bell, biochemist and 1994 Nobel laureate in medicine. Dr. Rod Bell is unable to be with us this morning as he had a prior commitment in Geneva to receive an honorary degree. He was able to be here to receive this award last Thursday at the university's annual recognition reception and awards ceremony. I therefore invite Larry Matsuda, President-elect of the Alumni Association, to step to the lectern and receive the award on Dr. Rod Bell's behalf. Dr. Rod Bell grew up in Baltimore and earned his BA degree from the Johns Hopkins University in 1949. He received a PhD from the University of Washington Department of Biochemistry in 1954 under the supervision of Professor Don Hanahan. Also on the faculty of the Young Department at that time were Dr. Edmund Fisher and Dr. Edwin Krebs, two UW professors who shared the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 1992, just 2 years before Dr. Rod Bell won the same award. Dr. Rod Bell has spent a lifetime exploring the secrets of biological communication, working mainly in various agencies of the National Institutes of Health. He and his research teams made groundbreaking discoveries about the ways in which cells translate and respond to signals. He originated the concept of signal transduction, which describes the specific molecular process by which incoming information turns cell functions on or off. Dr. Rod Bell's elegant research has greatly enhanced our understanding of the way cells work. It may also advance the treatment of certain diseases such as cholera, diabetes, alcoholism, and pituitary cancer that seem related to malfunctions of the process he discovered. Biological communication, Dr. Rod Bell has written, is a complex meshwork of structures joined in a community of effort for which my life and those of my colleagues is a metaphor. For his extraordinary contributions to the community of effort that is science, and for his brilliant probing of the processes of life, his alma mater honors him as its 1996 Alumnus Summa Laude Dignatus.
Just sit down.
Right, yeah. Student government is an important component of the governance of this institution, and its leadership is called upon regularly to represent student views on a wide range of issues at the university. I am pleased to introduce the president of the Associated Students of the University of Washington, Garrick Heilman.
All right, thank you, President McCormick. Good morning. Today is a day where students,
faculty, family, and community can all declare victory. Graduation is a day where we celebrate learning. And with that, I'd like to present the top 10 things that this graduating class has learned while at the UW. Now, before I begin, I see that some of my close personal friends have chosen to stand and recognize me in their own special way. To them, I say thank you. Now, without further ado, the top 10. Number 10, Hub Burgers make great hockey pucks. Number 9, when it comes to books, the more you spend, the less you read. Number 8, it seems everyone is 21 at parties around here. Number 7, yes, a human being can actually survive a full week on top ramen alone. Number 6, the most important math equation. Kissing up to your professor times 10 weeks equals 4.0. None of these are true by any means, by the way. Number 5, the most commonly heard phrase is, pizza time, can you hold please? Number 4, life's 3 guarantees, taxes, death, and of course, skyrocketing tuition. Number 3, Drumhill or Fountain is actually really quite a bit deeper than you think. Number 2, the most popular class is Psych 210. And number 1, also my personal favorite, Wenatchee's Apple Blossom is way overrated. Now, while I wanted to leave most of the more serious comments to Senator Bradley, I did have one thought I wanted to share with you from former President Theodore Roosevelt. TR once said, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." I want to thank all of you, and to all of you, I wish you the very best. Thank you.
This morning's commencement speaker is Senator Bill Bradley, senior United States Senator from New Jersey and one of the country's most admired public figures. Senator Bradley grew up in Crystal City, Missouri, and then attended Princeton University, from which he graduated with academic honors and as a basketball All-American and Olympic gold medalist. Next came 2 years at Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar, and then 10 years as a professional basketball player with the New York Knicks. In 1978, Bill Bradley ran successfully for the United States Senate. In his 3 terms as a Democratic senator, he has earned a national reputation for thoughtfulness, integrity, and persistent hard work in the service of issues about which he cares deeply. These issues include race relations, environmental protection, the new economic anxieties of the middle class, and the power of money in American politics. Senator Bradley has served on the Senate Finance Committee, the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, and the Special Committee on Aging. Among his major legislative achievements are the Tax Reform Act of 1986 and the Omnibus Water Bill of 1992, which reformed the Central Valley Project of California, the nation's largest water project. Last August, after completing his book, Time Present, Time Past, Senator Bradley announced that he would not run for re-election in 1996. Although he has not ruled out a return to the political arena, the role he sees for himself right now, he has said, is to try to reconnect people to the political process, but for now, from outside the process. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Senator Bill Bradley.
I want to try to be politically correct, touch all bases, show sufficient respect for everyone here today. So let me begin by acknowledging President McCormick, Provost Thorud, Dean Simpson, members of the faculty, class of 1996, parents of the class of 1996, the Board of Regents, and borrowing from the work of Gary Trudeau, board members of the Regents, those who watch Seinfeld, those who watch Frasier, those who watch 90210, those who don't like TV, those who admire Sean Kemp, those who admire Dennis Rodman. Denizens of Seattle, denizens of the night, Knights of King County, people of class, classy people, people of color, colorful people, people of height, the vertically constrained, people of hair, the differently coiffed, the optically challenged, the temporarily sighted, the insightful, the out of sight, the out-of-towners, the Afrocentrics, the Eurocentrics, the Eurocentrics with your rail passes, the eccentrically inclined, the sexually disinclined, people of sex, sexy people, earthy people, animal companions, friends of the earth. Friends of the boss, the temporarily employed, the differently employed, the differently optioned, people with options, people with stock options, the divestiturists, the deconstructionists, the home constructionists, the homeless, the temporarily housed at home, and God save us parents, the permanently housed at home. Good morning. For many years, when I spoke at graduations, I identified with the graduates, usually quoting the lyrics of some current hit song, just to show the students who understood which side of the divide of the generations I was on. These days, I identify with the parents who still think of the soon-to-be graduates as 5-year-old terrors on family vacations, or wide-eyed 9-year-olds at the breakfast table, and who today are full of a jumble of emotions: pride, relief, a sense of loss, and a growing belief that maybe, just maybe, all the money was worth it. For most of you, the University of Washington will never produce anything more tangible than your diploma and your friends. But I bet that most of you will never forget your friends, just like you'll never forget the grandeur of Mount Rainier or the quiet beauty of Puget Sound. Then there are the intangibles of your university experience: the pressures you've coped with, the mistakes you've overcome, the things you've learned about yourselves, the big questions that for the first time were posed for you here, the big questions that remain unanswered. I've always believed that the message of America is that if you work hard, you can get ahead economically. If you get involved, you can change things politically. And if you reason patiently enough, you can extend equality to all races and both genders. Today, many Americans doubt these basic American precepts. In the information economy, 4 computer stations replace 300 people in a credit department, no matter how hard they work. In our political dialogue, money often drowns out the voices of the people. And in our social interactions, few risk candor to create racial harmony. With the economy, the irony is that the forces which will make us all better off in the long run endanger many of us in the short run. The heavy footsteps of relocation, part-time jobs, temp jobs, middle age without health care, retirement without a pension, have made their way to the doorsteps of too many American families. Millions of Americans no longer look to the single workplace of the family's main breadwinner as the site where their standard of living will actually improve. Wages have been stagnant for too long, too many good jobs have disappeared, too many expectations have been shattered. As we move into the information age, we need approaches of breadth and innovation to assure the American dream for all our people. They must start with self-reliance, but must also include a reinvigoration of public power, our power, the power that all of us possess collectively. For nearly 20 years, what most people have missed is that while government can be distant and ineffective, public power can speak to people where they live their lives. Public power isn't labor-intensive. It doesn't require a massive centralized bureaucratic program delivering services to millions of people. It won't guarantee full employment. But applied in the right way at the right time in the right place, it can balance private power. Public power works only if individuals are better off when it's exercised. Public power often means preventing the ethos of the market from dominating other equally important ethics: democratic, environmental, human, spiritual. Public power can never replace the memories, places, and stories of these other ethics, but it can prevent the cacophony of modern life from drowning out their voices. Public power must always focus on the long term, be accountable, never be exercised arrogantly, and must always be a balancing force so that life can be whole and market economic forces, while giving us low prices and high quality, do not control our beings or destroy our humanity. Take, for example, America's public lands, the 1/3 of the landmass of America that's owned by all of us, the federal government. It belongs to, as I said, all of us. It is our patrimony. The miners, ranchers, corporate farmers of irrigated land do not own it. From the beautiful Red Rock wilderness of Utah, to the Olympic Peninsula here in Washington, to the majestic peaks of Alaska's Brooks Range, there are places that mankind has not yet altered. They are as they have been for thousands of years. And if we want our children to experience them in their pristine form, we must, as the Iroquois did, think of the effect of our actions 7 generations ahead. The only way to prohibit the natural resource industries from forcing the timeless expanse of wilderness to fit a calendar of quarterly earnings is for public power to say no, acting in behalf of all of us and for generations to come. In addition, only public power can reduce the trauma for people being thrown out of work without pensions, health care, or a chance of getting another job at equal pay. People need an economic security platform that will allow them to ride the rapids of this economic transformation. That platform, ensured by the exercise of public power balancing private power, should consist of the following: a year of company-paid health care for the family of the downsized worker who's been employed by a company of over 100 for at least 10 years. If you have a pension, it ought to be portable. An educational opportunity ought to be for a lifetime. Albert Einstein was once monitoring a graduate physics exam, and a student ran up to him and said, "Professor, the questions on this exam this year are the same as the questions on the exam last year." To which Einstein replied, "Well, that's okay, because this year the answers are different." In the information age, the answers are going to be different every year, and unless you view education a lifetime endeavor, you're not going to be able to come up with them. It's as simple as that. I hope that all of you have taken advantage of this university's wonderful facilities and learned all about technology and the digital revolution. But in addition to honing your intellect, I hope you've developed the capacity to see, to feel, and to give. To see beyond your immediate task to the larger world around you. To see the interrelatedness of life. To see that dichotomies between urban, suburban, Asian, Latino, Hindus, Christians, liberals, conservatives, pale in comparison to our common humanity, and to see that hatred is a self-indulgence that America and you cannot afford. I also hope that you've learned to feel a neighbor's pain and suffering as well as her joy, to feel a family member's love and return it in full measure, to feel your own strengths and weaknesses, and from that knowledge face the future with clarity. Finally, I hope you've developed the capacity and the inclination to give without expectation of getting something in return. This last hope is fundamentally spiritual. The Librarian of Congress, James Billington, has written, "We are a fallible species on a fragile planet, living at the intersection between the natural and the supernatural, forever seeking mastery, yet always confronting mystery. In such a situation, we need all the guidebooks we can get." That's why having true convictions doesn't require you to be a true believer. and why remaining open to learn from another person's truth expands your own horizons. As Diana Eck has written, God really encounters us in the lives of people of other faiths. For instance, I think of Gandhi's example of a love that puts one's life on the line for justice because one sees both justice and love are inseparable, one being the social manifestation of the other. A moral compass and a guiding set of convictions is even more crucial for your generation confronting this rapid technological change. There's a great deal of talk these days about the wonders of the internet, and there are many. The digital revolution, the gigantic productivity bonuses that will bring us even greater wealth. And it's true that in times past, national wealth rested on natural resources, abundance of labor, capital, but now more and more it rests on knowledge, and capital follows knowledge. If you doubt the global nature of this phenomenon, or the generational gap that exists in understanding its potential, let me tell you a story. I have a friend named Chidambaram. Actually, until recently, he was India's Minister of Commerce. About a year ago, he was up in north-central India, walking down the street of a small village in his constituency, shaking hands with people, campaigning just like an American politician. And he went in a little tea shop. And there was a kid about 12 or 13 years old, obviously the son of the proprietor, who was serving tea. And Chidambaram, making conversation, asked, like many of us do, "Well, what do you want to be, son?" And the boy shot back, "I'm going to study computers so I can be like the richest man in the world, Billy Gates." In other words, the information revolution had leapt out from Microsoft here in Seattle and touched the imagination of that boy in the little tea shop in rural India. Its reach is global, and its reach is transforming. And that means, as Abraham Lincoln once said about his time, the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. In such a global knowledge economy, driven by the genius of the young, power is no longer hierarchical. It shifts down to the knowledge worker. In turn, the knowledge workers, even in this class of 1996, those who write the software programs, design the hardware, anticipate the new linkages of information networks, have an enormous opportunity to effect change. But how you use this power depends on your values. Henry David Thoreau once said about the telegraph, "It's an improved means to an unimproved end." Being able to transmit massive amounts of information in nanoseconds will mean nothing if we lose our humanity in the process. If we're at each other's throats, a faster knife will simply lead to more killing. If militiamen or environmentalists or other gurus of the internet simply want to talk with each other, thereby reinforcing their already well-formed views, how will we find common ground? How will we learn from those who believe differently than we do? And how will we all be better off? If, on the other hand, the brightest talent recoils from working for a corporation that pollutes, or one that remains unappreciative of diversity, or mistreats its laid-off workers, then the corporation will suffer because it won't attract the knowledge talent that it needs to raise the capital for its growth. In other words, today, you can champion diversity, a vibrant economy, and environmental security, and you can win. But in America today, a burgeoning information economy exists alongside seemingly intractable social problems beyond the reach of knowledge workers. These problems are going to take personal contact to solve. The internet cannot mentor a kid, serve as a surrogate parent, read to the elderly, nurse the sick, transport the handicapped, start a dance troupe, a computer class, a little league team, or a poetry reading group. These are needs that are only going to be met by another person in someone's life. Nor will these problems be solved by simply investing more money in the information superhighway or by job retraining. Putting a computer in every classroom is meaningless if the student and the teacher don't realize that information is not knowledge and knowledge is not culture. Technology alone will never solve the human problems. Only people will solve the human problems. And another irony is that even the internet itself will depend increasingly on trust. So the challenge for our society is going to be figuring out how to take this vast productivity bonus that is coming and use it to deal with our social problems at the same time we give initiative its reward and keep the economy growing. Is that possible? Remains to be seen. Is it advisable? Yes. To find some way to infuse a part of the productivity bonus into the institutions of civil society, the churches, PTAs, community development corporations, so that people of integrity can do more of what they're doing now is a challenge worthy of this class of 1996. But to transform America, to do well economically, at the same time you do good socially, you have to, in addition to having intelligence, you have to have a deeper purpose for your life. One of my favorite stories is Leo Tolstoy's Death of Ivan Ilyich. Ivan Ilyich is a mid-level bureaucrat in Tsarist Russia. He's lying on his deathbed, recalling his life, his friends, his passions, his failures, his understanding of life. And as he ruminates about the choices that he's made in his life, he becomes bitter. Finally, he wonders whether his whole life has been led in vain, and all the things that all the highest placed people admired have been false. Whether his scarcely noticeable impulses, those which he immediately suppressed, have all been true, and all else false. To transform America, or even that part of America which is your own life, takes the strength to follow these scarcely noticeable impulses, those which sometimes take you far from the crowd, but which are truest in each of us. As a member of the class of 1996, here at the University of Washington, I hope you see that public power judicially used can improve our chances, all of our chances, for a fuller life. I hope you share the excitement of living in a time of rapid change and that you see that your values will determine the actions of your life as well as the shape of the information age. But I ask you to pledge yourself not to live only in the private solitude of your personal accomplishments. Do not live your life so your only end is survival or staying ahead of the peaks and valleys of the NASDAQ. Instead, experience the fulfillment of giving, even if others around you are taking. Recall the moments in the last 4 years when you took your deepest satisfaction, when you were truest to yourself. Listen to your inner voice and act upon those scarcely noticeable impulses. Whether it requires you next year to open a soup kitchen, start a business, work for a TV station, go to medical school, become a forest ranger, or raise a family. But whatever you do, do not deny your individuality, that which makes you human and unique, and that which at its deepest level I hope you will honor for a lifetime.